Bankruptcy is going to ruin your life. You're going to lose everything and you're never going to bounce back. If you're drowning in debt and these terrifying thoughts are keeping you up at night, you're not alone. I've seen thousands of people paralyzed by these same fears about bankruptcy. People just like you, hardworking, responsible people who've never imagined they'd be in this position. But for many people drowning in overwhelming debt, filing for bankruptcy isn't financial suicide. It's actually the lifeline that saved their financial future. In this video, I'll expose 3 bankruptcy myths costing you hundreds daily and show you how bankruptcy could be the decision that transforms your financial future. And as usual, this video is just for informational purposes only and not legal or financial advice. So let's start with that first terrifying thought. Bankruptcy will ruin my life. This myth is everywhere. Hollywood portrays bankruptcy as rock bottom, the ultimate financial failure. You've probably heard stories about people who filed and had their lives completely fall apart. You might even be worried about your friends, family, or coworkers finding out and judging you. I've worked with thousands of clients who are absolutely convinced bankruptcy would destroy everything they built. Yet, these same people would later tell me that avoiding bankruptcy was actually what was ruining their lives. How is that possible? Bankruptcy is the absolute worst thing you can do, right? You know, when you have a wedding coming up or a big event and you're just so anxious every minute leading up to it, then the event happens and you wish you didn't spend all that time stressing. That's exactly what I'm seeing here as well. Many people waste so much of their life making minimum payments on massive debt, throwing away thousands in interest payments that could have gone toward building an emergency fund, saving for retirement, or family vacations. All because they were too afraid to consider bankruptcy as an option. The reality is that bankruptcy helps people get a fresh start so their debt doesn't have to haunt them anymore. While it might not be the best option for everyone, I've seen it help thousands of people get farther ahead in life. And yes, bankruptcy may affect people differently depending on what type of bankruptcy they file, which we'll cover later in this video. But overall, there is way too much negative stigma around it. Let me ask you this. Do you have, let's say, a family or a friend who told you bankruptcy is the worst thing you could do? But has that person ever filed for bankruptcy? If so, did they tell you why it's the worst thing that you can do? Tell me why. I've seen this time and time again, where someone is so against bankruptcy because someone told them it's terrible. I mean, a friend of mine filed Chapter 7 and guess what? Their credit score was over 700 within a year of filing. Yes, it's possible. And he's not alone. In fact, according to US courts, bankruptcies are on the rise, with almost 500,000 people filing in 2024. That's a lot of fresh starts. So let's stop thinking it's the end of the world. Okay, so bankruptcy won't ruin your life, but you'll definitely lose everything, like your house, your car, your dog, all the food in your fridge, your grandma. Okay, I'm just exaggerating, but when most people think of filing bankruptcy, they picture themselves starting over at zero like they're in a video game. They become homeless, don't have a single item to their name. This fear keeps thousands of people struggling with minimum payments for years, draining every last dollar from their paychecks. But here's the truth. Most people who file bankruptcy keep almost everything they own. That's right. This is because each state has specific exemptions designed to protect your essential assets like your car and personal belongings, as long as you meet certain criteria. And here's something a lot of people don't know. Your 401k, that's protected too, thanks to a federal law called the Employee Retirement Income Security Act. So no, filing for bankruptcy definitely doesn't mean you're going to lose everything. What I've actually seen though is people wiping out their entire savings, maxing out every credit card they have, and even pulling from their 401k, all to avoid bankruptcy. And at the end of the day, they still end up filing bankruptcy, but now they've lost way more than they needed to. Honestly, the extreme steps people take to avoid bankruptcy usually come from fear and misunderstanding. But When you find out the actual truth behind a bankruptcy and how it actually works, your life changes immediately. Okay, you've just seen how myths about bankruptcy can cost you thousands of dollars and years of stress. But here's the challenge. How do you know which debt solution is actually right for your specific situation with your specific debts? And this is why it's so important to fully understand your options before making a decision. I get it. Trying to research and compare everything on your own can feel like a complete nightmare. So we built a free tool that not only compares Chapter 7 and Chapter 13 bankruptcy, but also debt settlement, debt management, and debt payoff planning. And these estimations are based on your actual numbers. All you have to do is quickly plug everything in and boom, we'll calculate a free custom report so you can review the cost estimates, time frames, and the pros and cons of everything. I'll link it below if you want to check it out. It only takes a few minutes and honestly, it could save you a ton of money and time. So we know that bankruptcy won't ruin your life and that you won't lose everything. But is it even possible to bounce back and rebuild your credit after filing? This is where most people get completely stuck. They've heard you're unable to get any credit for 10 years, no lenders will ever work with them, or they can never rent or buy a home again. Meanwhile, they're drowning in high interest debt, unable to make progress on their financial goals, with dreams of buying a home seeming impossible. What most people don't realize is the impact of bankruptcy on your credit is nothing like what you've been led to believe. Okay, let me put it this way. Bankruptcy will not destroy your credit forever. That's a myth. So stop believing that. I won't downplay that your credit score can take a hit at first, and that bankruptcy will stay on your credit report for 7 or 10 years, depending on the chapter you file. But here's the surprising part. Once your debts are wiped out, you actually become more appealing to credit card companies. Crazy idea, right? A lot of people start getting credit card offers just a few months after their bankruptcy is finalized. Why? Because lenders care more about whether you can pay them back now than what went wrong in the past. Now that you don't have all of those obligations, you may be considered less of a risk to a lender. And most people are able to start rebuilding their credit and improving their credit score pretty quickly, usually within 1 to 3 years. So yes, you can absolutely bounce back after bankruptcy. I've seen this happen repeatedly. People file Chapter 7, wipe out their credit card debt, and get approved for secured cards just months later. Within a year or two, many have credit scores in the 700s and qualify for mortgages at reasonable rates. They're able to achieve homeownership that would have been impossible if they continued drowning in minimum payments. Okay, so now that we know bankruptcy isn't the worst choice ever, what's the difference between Chapter 7 and Chapter 13? This is where a lot of people get completely lost. They hear legal jargon like means test and exemptions and immediately tune out. Or worse, they make a critical mistake by choosing the wrong type of bankruptcy for their situation. I've seen clients who qualified for Chapter 7 mistakenly file Chapter 13, forcing them into a 5-year payment plan when they could have eliminated their debt in months. I've also seen the reverse. People who are desperately needing the protections of a Chapter 13 try to force a Chapter 7 filing, putting their homes and cars at risk. Making the wrong choice between these two options can literally cost you tens of thousands of dollars and years of your life. I am not kidding. So how do you know which one's right for you? Let me break it down with a simple analogy. Imagine your debt is like a messy garage full of junk. Chapter 7's like calling in a junk removal crew. They come in, they clear out everything you don't need. They're fast, clean, and efficient. And within 3 to 6 months, most of the clutter, like credit card debt, medical bills, personal loans, they're gone. But before you can schedule that clean out, you'll need to pass the bankruptcy means test to make sure you qualify. Now, Chapter 13. That's more like organizing the garage yourself. You build some shelves, label some boxes, and commit to a plan over the next 3 or 5 years, based on how much storage you actually have available. It takes longer, but it lets you keep things that matter, like your house or a newer car, while slowly getting everything in order. And the best part? Both options give you legal protection from those collection calls, lawsuits, and wage garnishments, so you can finally stop stressing and start rebuilding. But the truth is, bankruptcy isn't for everyone. For many people, though, it's not the end of their financial journey. It's the first day of their financial freedom. It can wipe your slate clean in months instead of decades of minimum payments, freeing up hundreds or even thousands of dollars every month. Here's what keeps me up at night. I've seen people struggle with soul-crushing debt for years, missing out on vacations, emergency funds, and retirement savings, only to discover they could have been debt-free years earlier. But how do you know which path is right for your specific situation? Watch this video where I'll break down exactly how everything stacks up against each other: bankruptcy, debt management, debt settlement, and debt payoff plans. I'll walk you through the exact framework I've used to help thousands of clients find the fastest path to debt freedom based on their unique situation.